Welcome to Running on Ice, the coolest community in freight. I'm your host, Sydney Edwards, bringing you all the latest tech updates, warehouse developments, anything going on in the cold chain world. Now, if you're familiar with Running on Ice, the show, then you know Running on Ice, the newsletter. Every week on Wednesday and Friday, I set out a weekly newsletter talking about things similar topics like warehouse news and updates. And this night is no different. So before we get into our guest of the night, let's talk a bit about headlines. Now, grocery giant Kroger is opening a new customer fulfillment center in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. The new warehouse will span over 336,000 square feet and, according to Kroger, should create nearly 250 jobs. This facility will help streamline online grocery deliveries in partnership with UK-based online grocer Ocado. Now, Kroger says the delivery network uses 1,000 bots to retrieve products for customers' orders. Items are then sorted in delivery, and the tech is designed to ensure items are properly packed, so no eggs on the bottom or bread between jelly jars. Pleasant Prairie is located just between Chicago and Milwaukee, so this facility will service online orders in Wisconsin, Northern Illinois, and Northwest Indiana. And Emergent Cold Latin America is expanding operations once again and adding cold storage in Bucaramanga, Colombia. Now, Business Wire reports that this will be a state-of-the-art build with blast-freezing tunnels and office space. The facility will include 4,000 pallet positions, bringing the total number of frozen storage pallet positions at this location to just over 7,500. Now, if you remember, in April this year, Emergent Cold LATAM acquired Frio Metro, the leading cold storage company in Colombia. This adds to that partnership with the hopes of accelerating operations. Emergent LATAM President David Paulfiner says they will continue to expand storage capacity to meet demand. And another state-of-the-art facility is in the works, this time hitting the States in Waseca, Minnesota. Now, Canagra Brands announced opening a new vegetable processing warehouse to support the company's frozen meal business and Bird's Eye brand. This facility will span 245,000 square feet and cost approximately $300 million. Canagra says the peas and corn processed at the new facility come from nearby growers that use climate-smart practices to save water, support biodiversity, and improve soil health. This building replaces a 92-year-old facility and will allow for 20% more capacity for processing vegetables. And Canagra expects the new building will use 25% less water per pound of product produced than the previous building. Now, let's get to the fun stuff. So my guest today is Jim Waters. He is the Vice President of Global Marketing with Tive, a man of many travels. Jim, if you can hear me, I know you just got back from London. Is that correct?
I was in London. We're doing a massive expansion at Tive. We're really excited, and I'm really excited to talk about cold chain, which is a lot of the majority of business that we do here at Tive.
I'm glad to hear of this expansion. Maybe we should get into that a little bit in a little bit. But talking about Tive, I know FreightWaves is no stranger to the Tive, to our partnership at all. And you had sent over a short clip that explains some of Tive's efforts. So let's take a look at that right now.
Whatever your shipment, no matter the mode of transport, the real-time location and condition of your shipment matters. With Tive, you simply activate the tracker with the push of a button and secure it on a shipment at the box, pallet, or container level. That's it. Now, your team has all the data it needs to actively monitor shipments in real time, avoiding delays and excursions that cost your company time, money, and customers. Tive, because every shipment matters.
As the VP of Global Marketing, I'm sure you use that video pretty often.
We do like our videos here.
So let's get into today's topics. Now, we're talking about perishables cold chain and critical cold chain, both of which, if done right, can save loads, but also loads of money. And what we want is to keep customers as much as we want to create new customers. So let's kind of get into perishables first. Can you tell me what is included in perishables cold chain?
So it's an interesting question. So perishables can be anything from fruits, vegetables, flowers, plants. We like to joke, but cannabis is obviously a perishable. Meats, anything that's frozen. So when we talk about perishables, and we do an awful lot of perishable business, we're mainly talking about fruits, vegetables, and things that can spoil if they're not kept at the correct temperatures.
Now, the point, of course, is to get food to its destination without any mishap. But of course, mishap happens. And there are sometimes things that get in the way of some FDA regulations, of course. So when it comes to what can happen in a route, what are some of those things that you see?
So what we see most often is delays. So coming from Mexico, a lot of our produce that we're tracking is coming across the border. Anything can happen at the border. It can be shut down. They can hit quotas of how many trucks or vehicles have already passed through. So they get stuck at the border. Sometimes the drivers will shut off their trucks. They'll have to stay overnight. Or sometimes the reefer or the refrigerator unit will actually malfunction. And drivers might not always know that. So with Tive on board, we can make sure that not only the shippers, but also the customers can monitor in real time if there's a temperature deviation going on. So you don't want your strawberries or your blueberries or your mangoes leaving a shipping facility and on the way, encountering a warmer temperature, which is going to certainly affect shelf life, the integrity of the product, et cetera.
And I think shelf life is something that, of course, the everyday consumer doesn't necessarily understand. And so when we're seeing something that says, oh, shelf life is next week, but I buy it in the store today and it's already looking like it's going down, that could be because of some of these issues that they're seeing during the route. Is that correct?
That's right. It's funny. My wife is, she's a big strawberry fan, and she'll go to the store and she'll bring home some fresh strawberries or some blueberries, and she'll say, geez, these look really great, and we're really excited to have them. And then the next day, they're either moldy or they've begun to degrade or rot. And she'll ask me, she'll say, why is it that these things have a shelf life of a week or a week and a half, and one day after we buy them, they're already rotten. And that's mainly because along the route somewhere there was a time where it went from cold to warm and stayed warm, or it went from cold to warm back to cold. And fruits and vegetables can't take those types of deviations. So it's really important for not only the shippers, but also, the customers to know that people are taking a look at and reacting in real time to keep those shipments fresh. And it's not an easy thing to do, and that's why Tive is here, is to help shippers, 3PLs, get those things to market on time and in full.
And so if they notice that a shipment maybe is late, or that the product is already kind of hitting that expiration date, that shelf life date, what is it that can be done about it? But also, what could happen as a result of the food? I mean, I guess the quality of the food going down.
Yeah, so there's a number of different things that can happen. So if a shipper realizes that a deviation in temperature is happening, there's a number of things they can do. So they can call the driver. They can make sure that the driver is aware that there might be something wrong with the refrigeration unit. It might have malfunctioned. They may have turned it off for whatever reason, maybe safety reasons, and they need to restart it. And that can prevent that load from going bad. The other thing that can be done is, if the deviation has been long enough that it could cause a rotten load, you don't want that going to the store. So you want a happy customer, and you want them to be able to get those perishables. So you can dispatch a new load. That way, the old load that might have gone bad can come back, and we can dispatch, or they can dispatch, a new load, thus keeping the customer happy. And as you said at the beginning, It's all about keeping those customers happy because it's 10 times harder to bring in a new customer than it is to keep an existing one.
And I know that if these shelf life dates aren't exactly as they say they are when it comes to the customer eating the food, enjoying the food, other things can happen too. Sickness can be involved in this. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. So there have been documented cases where deviations probably occurred. I know there was a story about some tainted vegetables or fruits that crossed the border from either the U.S. into Canada, and people got sick from consuming fruits that hadn't been kept at the proper temperatures, which is why in our country FDA has strict guidelines on not only keeping perishables at a constant or cold temperature, but they also will audit companies often and say, we want to pull this load and that load, and we want to take a look at, how did it perform along the route? Did it get warm or cold? Did it stay constant? And it's a great documentation piece to have to be able to generate those reports at the push of a button.
And so if we get more into the customer base and trying to keep customers as well as recruit more customers, what are some of the things that I guess might deter customers, of course, besides eating mushy raspberries and mushy strawberries? What are some of the things that might deter customers, and what are some of the things that might keep customers going?
From the customers that we have, and we like to think that everybody's a happy customer. We help them. We make sure that they know at all times, where those loads are, and not only where they are, but how they are. Right. So how cold, how wet, was there a shock event? Did someone open the container, or did someone open the back of the truck? And when these things happen, it's critical to know in real time that you may need to take a reactive measure to prevent these things from losing $100, $200, $300,000 load. So we talk to customers all the time, and they'll say, what? We just wanted to say thank you because we had a $50,000 load of blueberries and the reefer unit had stopped working. So without you having your Tive, trackers on board, we wouldn't have known that, and we would have lost that load.
So as much as FreightWaves and Tive partner together for a lot of things, and we love to hear you guys on the show, my first actual encounter with a member of Tive was when FreightWaves had the Future of Supply Chain event in Arkansas, and on the plane back from Arkansas, I was sat next to one of your coworkers, and he was telling me all about Tive, and of course, that was when I was fresh new into the supply chain industry here working at FreightWaves, and so I was blown away, but mostly blown away by the critical cold chain aspect of things. I just think it's the coolest thing, and I think it's something that nobody really thinks about, is moving body parts and all the things that are involved in keeping body parts cold and moved in a timely fashion. And so I would love to move over onto the critical cold chain of things and tell me more about what exactly that entails and what Tive has actually done in moving critical cold chain.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. And critical cold chain is a completely different area than perishables. For one, critical cold chain typically involves colder temperatures where you're going to be shipping blueberries or strawberries at 34 degrees Fahrenheit. When we're shipping things like body parts. And it sounds kind of grim, but body parts are part of a process where donors are donating their organs, and then there's an organ recipient. So these things have to be carefully handled from start to finish. So putting them into a pre-conditioned container making sure there is a proper tracking device that can not only track the hyper-accurate location, but also the condition, right? So, we did a case study with one of our customers, and it was called, "Where's My Liver?" And it was kind of a fun spin on, where is this liver? Did it get loaded on the plane at the right time? Is it going to be on time? Because not only is it, being shipped, but there's somebody actually on the other end waiting for it. So it's kind of a play on, where's my liver? But at the end of the day, this is critical. I mean, you have somebody that's literally waiting on an operating table for that transplant to happen. So yeah, critical cold chain used to be thought of because of COVID as just moving, COVID vaccines or other vaccines, and those are also considered critical. But nobody really thinks about how many hundreds, if not thousands, of transplants can't take place every year because the body part was either lost or it went bad in transit.
It's just wild to me to think about it because we think about routes and food and fruit going bad during a drive, and now we're thinking about a flight and a body part that maybe didn't make it on the flight or something changed in that temperature that could eventually change the life of somebody else. I just think it's crazy because it has to be so monitored in that way, and I guess that's where Tive comes in, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think of somebody that's close to my heart. My nephew had an enlarged heart. He was about, I think, 18 or 19 when he got diagnosed, and you get put on a donor list or a recipient list, and that can take months or even years. So when he finally was matched with a donor, he had to be prepped in the hospital on the operating table within hours. And then that heart had to travel from, say, Chicago to Boston, where he's located. And it needed to make sure that it got on the plane, that it was at the proper temperature. And when it got off the plane, it had to be transported by ambulance. So everyone on the surgical team would know exactly where that body part was at any part of the route, including in the air, on the ground, right up until the time that it's received at the hospital, prepped, and then into surgery it goes. So you can see that we like to say that we're helping, um, you know we're helping people get the things that are near and dear to their hearts delivered on time and in full. We do that on a lot of different levels, including as I've described here as transplants.
Being an everyday consumer, you see the work of Tive every day and you see how it could be used. And I guess I'm curious, as you've been working for Tive, did you ever think you were going to run into a situation on this side of things, on the critical cold side of things, where it would be that close to you in something that Tive could be helping with, or just needing that critical cold chain like that?
Yeah, no. When I first started at Tive, which was about 2 years ago, we were very small. I was employee number 18, and our CEO Canagra reached out to me and he said, we could really, use your help getting the company going. And I said, I don't know anything about logistics, but I'm a data guy. And from that day on, it was a learning experience, a lot like you said at the beginning of the show. I was really, really taken with the amount of things that go either spoiled or they go lost or they're damaged. We think of it as the Amazon effect, right? So you place your order with Amazon, and then 5 stops away, they let you know that they're in the neighborhood and they're gonna deliver your products within the next couple hours. But with Tive, I mean, we're letting people, or we're collaborating with shippers and 3PLs and logistics service providers so that everyone is collaborating. They know exactly where things are, and they know exactly how things are. Are they damaged, or do they need to be turned around? The other thing that we look at is ETA. So when a shipment enters a warehouse parking lot, that doesn't mean it's at the warehouse. So, you know, ETA is really important to labor, because you don't want to have a shipment show up and there's no one on the loading dock to unload it. Consequently, you don't want uh, you know you have to have everything lining up. And ETA is a big part of that, and that's where hyper accurate location comes in.
So Jim, tell me, what is next for Tive? Anything new that's coming up that you can let us know about?
So we've got some super secret stuff that's coming up within the next month. So I'll save that for another episode. But in April, we were in Nice, France, and we released the Solo 5G Pharma. That's a hyper accurate device that is specific to cold chain, but for pharma. So we then followed that up with a release of 2 new probes, and those probes allow us to monitor not only vaccines but critical things from pharma at cryo cold or dry ice temperatures, which, as everyone knows, dry ice is very, very cold. You can't just throw any tracker or data logger into a box. We have to use a probe so that we can keep the battery life up, so that we can track a critical cold chain um, uh, you know shipment from start to finish without having any issues.
And one last question for you. Do you think more companies are buying into products like Tive and realizing maybe what they could be worth for their company? Or do you think there maybe is a new technology that's out there or could be out there soon in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're working kind of on a super secret project right now, because there is an evolution going on where data needs to be shared. Collaboration is actually the next step. All this data on tracking and tracing, and ETAs, port strikes. There's so much data out there that it needs to be shared. It needs to be available. And we actually work with the Open Visibility Network, which we founded with Project 44 about a year and a half ago, where we have different technology providers that have provided APIs, so that you don't need to change your platform. You simply need to add an API of real-time data, and then what visibility means to you becomes reality. So if it's location and condition, that's great. But if you want to add weather, or tracking a ship at sea, we have those types of data available. So I think that as the industry evolves, you're going to see, even from Tive, that we're adding the probes. In another month, we're going to be adding another tracker to our already pretty robust offerings. So we're really looking forward to taking visibility to the next level, and we're really excited about helping people make sure that what's near and dear to their hearts is going to arrive on time and in full.
You're staying tight-lipped, Jim. Good for you. Well, thank you
Well,
so
I'm
much
hoping
for
for
joining.
you can invite us back, and we can talk about the super secret.
Yes, of course. Now I have to put you on the calendar. We'll make it work. But tell me, where can folks find out more from you, more from Tive?
So we're easy to remember. It's just www.tive.com, and we have all the information available on all our trackers, including our platform. So we like to say we're hardware, we're software, and then we have a 24/7 monitoring team. All of that is available on our website at tive.com.
And that Jim@Tive email, which is the simplest email. I was loving just typing it in.
And you can always reach out to Jim@Tive.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Jim. I'm looking forward to talking with you in the future. We'll see more about those probes and what else Tive has in store. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sydney.
Now, as I mentioned earlier in the show, the Friday series of Running on Ice will be tonight. That newsletter runs at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can subscribe to it at freightwaves.com and stay up to date with all the industry news. Now, I'll also be linking this interview with Jim to that newsletter, so if you missed it or you just want to rewatch it, you can see it there too. And I am in the market for a cold chain expert to join the show next week, so if anybody knows somebody, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I want to hear from you. So I'll see you. Stay cool. We'll see you next Friday.